Baby!
Better than you.
Hey, we're better together. How about that?
Yeah, fine. One of my parishioners saw me wearing this shirt, and they were like, what does that mean?
Why did they see? What were you doing around parishioners wearing that shirt?
It was just like, it was kind of like a casual day. So
okay,
it was just.
So you're like, I know what I'm gonna do.
And so I was just wearing a shirt. And, you think you're better than us? It's like, well, yeah, pretty much. That being said, I did go into the co-op in Unity, and a random lady that I didn't know was walking out wearing an AEW shirt.
Okay.
I was like, dude, Adam Cole, yes! We got the same shirt.
Oh, to make friends in this world.
That's right.
What a beautiful thing. What's happening, party people? Welcome to Punchboard Party. My name is Daniel. This is Father Greg, and we are doing our best of the month, where we talk about all of the board games that we played in the month of August, and then we're going to tell you what our favorite board game we played this month was. Now, let us know down in the comments below what games you've been playing in the month of August, what you like the most. We just love talking to you, hearing from you, getting ideas of what games we might like to play as well. So, Father Greg, we just get right into it. We got a lot of games to talk about.
There are quite a few of although this was a slower month for me, a very busy month for you.
That's right. So, I, for the first time, Father Greg is going to be talking about the majority of the games that we played together.
That's right.
Whereas all the previous versions of this list, I'm the one who takes the
usually I've got a few more games than you.
So I don't know whether to feel proud of that or what, or disappointed in you. I don't know.
Well, the first game I played was August 11th, so the first 11 days I started behind the ball.
Okay. Well, why don't you get us in front of the ball?
All right. Well, we had I don't know what do you call these, parish board game night at St. Anne's or something, and I showed up at the very end of it because I didn't need to be there for that, and. But then right at the end, Daniel was like, you know what we should do? Play a game of Colorado. Well, okay. Colorado is a great game. I love that mechanism of kind of like I pick, you choose sort of kind of thing where, you take a card, you put it into a pile that you think I'm not going to want to take, and eventually I take it, but then there's also like this high preponderance of negative points. I think you ended up scoring a fair bit of negative points if it strikes me right.
We discovered during this play that I have no clue how to play this game. I would take piles of cards and everyone around the table would be like, what? I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah, no, but it's a fantastic exercise in this trying to maximize your points, because basically there's like 6 different colors of chameleons that you're collecting and drafting, but you're only going to score positive points for 3 of them, and then any other colors you collect, they're going to score negative points to the same ratio as you score the positive points. You just get stuck with negative points sometimes. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah.
And it plays quick. It's light. Yeah. It's very good way to start or end off an evening.
That's right.
Scott was in town. So we did a video with his top 10, and so
we sure did.
Yeah, that was fun.
Yeah, Larry and Dallas are jealous, by the way, because his views got like way more than theirs.
Yeah, you know why?
Even like combined.
You know why? Because he's hot. That's why I put him in a thumbnail. It's rock and roll. So he has that kind of face. So that's where we go. That's how we get our views. So I'm excited to get Dave on here. He'll do the same thing. He'll get this channel right off the ground.
Just dropping eye candy on this on this channel.
We don't quite do it for the party people, right. I guess. Played lots of games with Scott while he was here with the boys. And so we played a game of challengers with the boys. The boys kind of got in on it, which was funny because Sarah kind of had to help out, and we had to sort of pinpoint what they might want to be doing with their decks and things like this. But this play cemented for me that Challengers is a game that you can be better at than not. That it is not just a pure luck fest. You can construct a deck that is going to give you a higher probability of winning than others' decks. So when I play this game now, I am in the top kind of I'm in the running. I'm either winning or getting second place. And so I'm like, okay, that's great. You can like play this game, you can try, and you can win. And that play in particular was really great, where I was just able to synergize a deck that just kept on working over and over and over again with the things that I was looking for. Again, you just kind of pick a couple of cards and you just sort of build your deck around that. Like, this card's going to give me bonus strength for city cards that are in my deck. So I just keep on buying city cards and adding them to my deck. You know, it's not a hard strategy, but it works and it's fun. And again, it does depend on the card draw when you're drafting new cards in your deck, but the game's also really generous with that, where you can mulligan your whole hand and look at more cards, or you can take one card, discard the rest, then take 4 more and choose from there. So you got lots of room to play with. So again, Challengers continues to be a game that I really enjoy and applaud. I applaud the fact that it has been able to distill the deck building game into its lowest common denominator in a way that really works.
So yes, Scott was over, and he was over at Dan's house, and but then Dan was like, I don't know, putting his kids to bed or something. So he was like, hey, you guys play a game. And we're like, what should we play? And we're talking, and we shared a mutual love for Jay Cormier and Sen Foon Ling. And we were like, he was like, well, have you ever played Acroteria? And I was like, no, this game's been in Dan's collection forever. And no, I've never played this game.
Scott gave it to me years ago.
Oh.
Yeah.
So Scott pulled it out. Daniel, how did you not ever teach me this game?
I don't know how to play it.
This is a great game. This is like, I love it. It's like, it's got like tile placement. You're making like these islands. It's pick up and deliver, but not like in a, I wouldn't say it's the whole of the game. Like, there's a lot more things that you're trying to do. You're trying to kind of like build kind of islands, but to create certain kind of patterns. Like, you want to have red resources to the north of you and black resources to your west and 2 green to your east and so on. So there's a little kind of like thing you have to wrap your head around about, like, oh, I see, what constitutes north and south and east and west. Like, it don't be directly north. It could just be anywhere north of your island, right? But like, yeah, moving your little ships around and like picking up goods, dropping them off, selling them. There's kind of a market, so different goods kind of become more valuable.
And the more you sell, the less you sell. Changes the amount. Yeah.
Just really, really love this game, and upset that you didn't teach it to me.
I am so sorry. I've only played this game a half time twice. And so I've never really gotten it into my repertoire enough to feel confident to teach it. Sam would always refer to this as kind of reverse Tobago. Because instead in Tobago, you're deciding as a group kind of where the treasure is based on playing clues down, rules essentially that we all have to follow. This is sort of the reverse of that, where you're have a certain kind of island that needs to fulfill these requirements, and so then you build these requirements on behalf of that island or whatever it is. So, good game.
Yeah.
I guess. This next game, I don't know if you actually got to play it, because Dallas said as he was leaving, he was like, hey, I'm going to try not to play this with Father Greg so that you have something to talk about that he won't. But my chances are you did, because this is a great little game called Next Station London. Did you get that played too? No comment. So Next Station London is this really neat flip and write where there's 4 different colored pencils of different colors, and each player is playing with a different color for each of the rounds of play. And so then a typical flip and write, there's just kind of different pieces of a subway route, essentially, that gets flipped, and you get to sort of draw that on your map. But the different color subway routes can't intersect. So the first round, you're building a subway route that will get you certain points. You get points for getting to these kind of central hubs and kind of trying to get sort of a majority of those, and they increase the scoring. You know, typical ways that you score points in game. The trick is that the next round, you're going to be now playing with a different color pencil, and that color can't intersect with the previous color. So you're like kind of restricting yourself on the map. But then if you get to these kind of central hubs, then you can kind of build lines off of that'll cross over and things. But so you're restricted, but then maybe not, depending on how smart your play is. But this was a really fantastic flip and write. I really enjoyed it. You'll talk about it later.
Sounds really great. If only Dallas and Mary would have let me play it. They were like, we got this game. It sounds really cool. we can't play it with you because we said we weren't going to because Daniel wants to talk about it or something. I was like, oh,
He did not say that.
fine, sure.
You're lying.
No, I'm not. He was like, I need you guys to talk about this game, and then we're going to play it next month, so that you'll have something to talk about next month, and we'll cross over. I was like, well, all right.
So you actually didn't play this?
No comment. Well, the next game that I played was with Scott as well. This time you were here because you came down from putting your kids to bed or whatever.
Yes.
And one of the games on Scott's top 10 was Dale of Merchants.
That's right.
A game that I had played, but it had been quite some time since I've gotten this one to
Upwards
the table.
of like 7-8 years.
Yeah, I don't think it was in my recorded list of plays.
Okay.
So it had been a little while. But anyways, we played a game of Dale of Merchants. And yeah, it was good. I don't know if I put this game in my top 10 of all time, you know. But yeah, Scott's played this game, I think, many times.
Yes.
I like that it has that kind of Dominion thing where you can kind of decide what sort of play you're going to have because you choose what cards are in the game.
Yeah.
So like in Dominion, if you have a group that doesn't like mean cards, well, you just don't put the raccoons in.
Yeah.
You know, or if you have whatever guys who like a lot of like synergistic cards, well, then you can use the blue faction or the green faction or whatever. So because you're like mixing all these things together, you can kind of alter the game to tailor it to the likes of your group.
Yes. Yeah,
So that's a nice little aspect of it.
What I really like about Dale of Merchants is kind of just how the game plays, where you're building your deck, which the different cards give you new abilities, kind of more powerful, creating a more powerful deck to be more efficient in things you're trying to do. But the ultimate thing that you're trying to do is build what they call stalls. So you're kind of setting up your merchant's stand. And what a stall is it's just a grouping of cards that work up or add up to a certain number. So your first stall is 1, your second stall is 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, I think to 8. Mm-hmm. And so the first few stalls you might just play an individual card that's of that value, but then you might need to start adding a couple cards together.
Right.
So these are cards that are coming out of your deck. Mm-hmm. And now they're just going to be in front of you. But unlike other deck building games where you're getting rid of cards and they're kind of the crappy cards, when you're building your like level 8 stall or whatever, you're taking pretty valuable cards. You're taking cards that do really cool things in order to reach the value, the sum value that you're looking for in your next stall. And I love that push and pull. Like, do I get this card in my deck so that I can use it, or am I putting it in my deck so that I can just get it out of my deck and build my stall?
Right.
That's fun.
Yeah.
That's fun.
Neat little deck builder, for sure.
We tried to play a nice little game of just one. And you know what? It worked out okay. Owen started drawing the pictures like of words instead of putting a word, he would just like draw a picture. So it was like a mix of Pictionary and just one.
Was it a picture of the word he was trying to get you to say, or a picture of the thing that you were trying to guess?
He was essentially just drawing a picture of the thing we were trying to guess. So it was like, okay, he would waffle between those two things, but yeah, he was trying his best.
The next game that we played when we were all together was a game that you were really high on in the month of August. You were just like, this game is my new thing for the month of August, baby. This is Cora.
Oh yeah, I played Cora a lot.
Did you? Wow.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so this is a game, I love the theme of this game. I like ancient civilizations, Rome, Sparta, Athens, just Babylon.
Corinth.
Yeah, Corinth, exactly. Yeah, just you are playing, kind of early civilizations, early city-states, and you're trying to get resources and take over plots of land and, expand your empire and so on. But the one thing that this game does is that it gives you not just like one variable player power, but this like track that your civilization grows on as the game develops, and as you grow up on this track, you unlock like more and more powers that are unique to your particular civilization, which is really cool.
And multiple powers that synergize
exactly
with the previous powers.
That's right. And so I think the potential deficiency of this game that I would be curious in its kind of long playthrough is that each civilization, I would say, has really one way of playing it. So I played the Spartans that were obviously geared towards a lot of like attacking and conquering and getting these little like tokens that you get, and each token was more valuable for me and so on. So my question would be whether you could ever play, like you could choose another strategy and be like, I'm going to be Sparta, but I'm not going to attack anyone. But it's like all of your powers are geared towards making attacking better as Sparta. Like I lost one less troop when I attacked, or I gained extra victory points for these tokens and so on. So I think it's a bit of a situation where your civilization kind of dictates from the very beginning, as soon as you get it, you kind of know what you're doing for that game. Because you're like, oh, I see, I've got Sparta. All right, this is what I'm doing. I'm not going for money. I'm just going for military power. That's how I'm going to win this game.
So you and Scott were talking about that as if it was a bit of a negative for the game. It could be potentially a negative for the game when it's just like, oh, my civilization, I read over my civilization's board, I know what I need to do. Mm-hmm. But there is fun in the execution of that civilization. There's a lot of fun in like, okay, now can I make these things bounce off of each other? Because there's the politics cards, which also add wrinkles into how you can more efficiently get to where your civilization wants you to go. So it's not just ipso facto, do this, but it's now like, okay, now how do I do that? Mm-hmm. And I had the thing where I basically go 1 for 1 in like doing well at this game and doing terrible at this game. I didn't realize until that play that it was, I played to my civilization or I didn't play to my civilization. Right. So now I know, just play to your civilization and everything's going to be okay.
That's it.
But it's still fun. This game ranks very highly for me. So we got on a kick of playing kids games. And so we played Dragomino. And Dragomino did not land when I first got it at Christmas time. The whole idea is that it's King Domino, but for kids. And so you're building your little kingdom with these domino tiles of different terrains on either side of them. Mm-hmm. And when you get a matching terrain type, you then pick a little dragon egg of the corresponding color and you add it to your kingdom and you flip it over and it's either a broken dragon egg, which means you get no point, or it's a little tiny dragon.
Right.
And you get a point. And the boys just couldn't handle when we first played that you could make a match and then just not be rewarded for it at all. And so this time around, they were a bit more forgiving with that mechanism, but it did cause a lot of problems still. Like Ethan would just be getting dragons, and then Owen was getting broken eggs, and he would just start tearing up and getting sad. So Sarah went in, and I was like, "Don't do. They need to learn how to be tough. They need to learn how to lose." And she went in and she took away some of the broken eggshells. So there were still some broken eggs there, but not as many. But anyway, we played quite a few rounds of this, and the kids really did enjoy it and come to like it. I think it is it's quite good for a kids game.
Right. Yeah, I didn't record this game in our plays of the month, but I did play this with with Owen and Ethan. Yeah, actually, I was pleasantly surprised. It's a fine enough game for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then we went over to Dave's house, and
Dave!
the king of bland-ass Euros.
That's right. He wears that as a badge of honor. Right.
Every time we go over, it's like, there's always some game afoot up there, and it's got clip art, and it is what it is. And this time we played Lancaster. Which is no exception. So Lancaster is like a worker placement game, but where your workers have different values, and the value is indicated by how tall the worker is.
That's fun. Just these chunky cubes.
That's right. So you're putting these little ones out there, just like little discs, but then you put this 4, and it's like a cube square. Yeah. So you stomp it down, and you're like, no, this is my spot. So yes, you can kick people out of worker placement spots if you put a higher worker, and then they get their worker back. But now there's less places for them to be able to go to. So
there's also a currency that you can add to your strength.
That's right.
Of your pieces as well. So if you have a 4, someone can still kick you out by playing a 4 and a couple of squires, I think they're called.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And then, yes, there's gold, and you're trying to build your castle, and you're trying to, gain victory points by fighting in battles in France and stuff like that. And an interesting game. For sure, definitely still fits into that kind of Euro mechanism. But this, I do like that kind of, it's not really bidding on a spot, but in a sense kind of bidding. I'm going to put my worker here and secure this spot for myself.
I think it's pretty much an auction
Mm-hmm.
It's just people might leave you alone, or they might come after you for that spot.
Right.
So yeah, again, various ways to victory, various ways to score points, and then there's certain spots on the board that get you closer getting points in those various ways. Right. So some spots will get you the military route. Some spots will help you build pieces of your castle, which then allow you to gain more squires during the income phase or more money during the income phase. And so you're just kind of, each round you're kind of looking and seeing like, I kind of need all these spots, but do I have the stuff to do it? So, and then spots that will increase the value of your pieces. That will either, so there's two ways, right? You can either go to a spot that will get you a new worker, which will start at 1, or a spot that will turn your 1s into 2, or your 2s into 3, or your 3s into 4. And so that's kind of where the puzzle is at, is how often do I go out to get a new worker, and how often do I increase the value of my existing workers? And so getting that right, that's the game, is more workers the better, the stronger the workers the better. So figuring that out while you're doing all the other stuff to get some points, that's the puzzle. That's a nice little puzzle. Okay, so Ethan loves this next game. He always kind of brings it up. Strike. And so we played a game of Strike with Scott. Scott liked it because it's hard not to like Strike.
Sure. Great. Good review.
That's it.
So yes, the next game that we played at Dave's house was another game that was on Scott's top 10 list.
That's right.
I had never played, and it was the only game that he had brought with him in his suitcase to come down here. And this was City of Horror. Yeah, which is like a zombie themed game where zombies are attacking the city and they're infiltrating all of these various locations. And your decision is, who do you throw out to the zombies? That's the decision. I think there's another game called Lifeboat that has like a very similar kind of feel. But yeah, like basically it's just a game of trying to figure out who's kind of currently in the lead and throwing them to the wolves and being like, well, you've got a character with 4 points. I think you're in the lead. Your old lady's going to go out the door. But then you like play a card. You're like, aha, no, I can move my old lady. So she's no longer in that building. Or my kid just hid. There was that. I think you had a kid.
No, Dave.
It was Dave. Just had a kid who kept hiding, and so I could never throw him out because I couldn't find the little bugger.
That's right.
But or like you're on top of this watchtower, and it's great. You can see the water tower, you can see the whole city, and get like a lot of inside information. And then this little jackwipe comes along and just blows up the water tower, just like me to my death. Like what the heck? But it was a fun game. I really did enjoy this game. It's not if you're looking for a game with like deep strategic decision making, you're gonna be left like disappointed.
Yes. If you go in thinking that you can accomplish what you want to accomplish just by wherewithal,
that's right.
This is not it.
That's right. But if you're like, you know what, I'm just here for a good time. That's what board games are about.
Yeah.
I want to maybe laugh along the way. You could tell stories about your characters.
Yes.
Like they have kind of funny. They have like kind of like you start with like their upgraded side normally, and then you can like flip them if you use their power, but now they're worth like less points.
Yes.
But like some characters start on like a worse side. Like you can't move because you're an old grandmother who like has a walker.
But she has a lot of points. That's
right.
The thing. Is I had these characters that were worth a lot of points, but they couldn't do anything.
That's right.
And then you use their power to do a normal thing, and then they were worth less points. But, it's a series of these negotiations.
Right.
Like you said, based on kind of who's in the lead, whatever. But the main currency in the game are your cards. And your cards do wild and woolly things. But in order to do things in the game, you have to discard cards. And so I got to a point in the game where I was kind of running just like a one-card hand.
Right.
It was tight. But I squeaked out the victory.
You did. We didn't pay any attention to you.
Yeah, because I had these two characters.
Just left you alone in the armory and just...
That's right. That's right. So yeah, fun game. But you're not going to get anything special out of this. It's going to depend on who you're playing with and if they're willing to lean into the craziness.
That's right.
Yeah. But we did, and it was fun.
Yeah, no, it was good.
Okay, with Scott, Father Greg and I, we played a game of Goblin Vaults.
Wow.
This is a game in the sort of role player universe. And so this is theoretically a card game that the characters in the role-playing game that you're playing in Role Player would play.
That's right.
If they were at Tavern or whatever.
That's right, yeah.
And so essentially what this game is, it's like a weird auction card game where you have your vault in front of you that you're trying to get certain cards in, and there's 3 different tiers in your vault, and cards, there's an indication on each card about where in your vault the card needs to be to score points. Mm-hmm. And then there's also these kind of end game scoring cards that will say you'll score points for each row in your vault having numbers in sequential order, or you'll score points in your vault for every card that shares this icon,
right?
Or these kinds of things. And so you're basically on your turn. You have a hand of 10 cards at the beginning of the game, and then as the game progresses, you're just dwindling your hand. Mm-hmm. And so then you're going to play a card, and you're going to play it under a card. There's 3 cards that are available to kind of auction for. And you're going to play a card down there saying, I want that card. Or maybe you're playing a card because you don't actually want that card that's there, but you want the card that you're playing. Mm-hmm. And so there's an underbidding mechanic that you have to spend some points in order to do that, but then you can get that card back to play into your vault. So it sounds really interesting. It sounds really interesting and really fun. I've heard that it plays great at higher player counts. We were playing at 3. And it ho-hum.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. It's still, to this day, I can remember very little about how it actually like sort of plays. But yes. I remembered leaving thinking like, oh, yeah, this is an interesting game.
Yes. Yeah, fun things to work out. But again, at 3, I don't think the intriguing nature of the auction, because really it came down to sort of like, I'll take this card, you take that card, you take that card. Mm-hmm. Like a lot of the time.
Right.
So it has potential. Mm-hmm. Has potential.
Then I went over to Mary and Dallas' house, and we played a game of Tsuro. Just a little game of making a path. And so you just have little dude, and you put a tile on, and he moves along the path. And the path sometimes turns, and sometimes it goes in circles, and sometimes it goes over costs of other people's paths, and you just want to stay on the board as long as you can.
Yeah.
And eventually, all the paths are going to take you towards some exit, and you're going to, as the board gets busier and busier and busier, it's going to be harder and harder and harder to place a tile that actually works. And so it's just a last man standing, who's alive at the end. But it's just, I don't know, this is a nice game. It's very, very light. Even Aster was playing it kind of with us, just sitting at the table.
Yes, of course.
Just putting down a tile, and I mean, sometimes her thing would go right off the board, but,
yeah.
Because
you kind of got to look ahead to see where all the loop-de-loops are going.
That's right, exactly. But, yeah, lovely, lovely little game.
Yeah, no, I like Sarah. I've only played it like once, like years ago. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, a very inoffensive game.
That's right.
Very offensive game. All right, so then with Scott, it was just he and I one evening, and we got to looking at what could we play, and he was like, "Why do you have that?" And he looked at Tyrants of the Underdark. I said, "Why do you have that? Like, you don't like dungeon crawlers, and like you hate Gloomhaven." I was like, "Oh, it's not a dungeon crawler. It's a deck builder area control game."
Right.
And he's like, "Oh, I love deck building, and I love D&D, so let's play it." And so we played it, and you know what? I really, really, really like this game. I just it was designed in the era of kind of post-Dominion, so it was like Dominion, Ascension, and then Tyrants of the Underdark kind of, I think was probably the first pioneer in sort of adding a board, or one of the first to kind of add a board to it, but the deck building itself is very much in that Ascension, Dominion vein, where it's a very simple, you have cards that will either let you kind of inflict power, where you can then collect troops off of the board, which will get you victory points, or the cards have buying power to get you more cards. It's kind of that dual currency deck builder game. And Scott was much better at this game than I was. I still struggle to like build a nice refined deck that does what I want to do. But the theme is right for me. I like the kind of creepy, eerie monsters. And there's lots of replayability in this game, because basically there's like 6 decks available in the base game, and you always play with 2 decks that you combine into one kind of creature deck or whatever that you used to play the game. But it's this nice little game where you're kind of setting up your troops into these different areas. If you get majority in that area, you get a certain amount of victory points. If you have total control of an area, you'll get more victory points. And so it's just this back and forth, kicking each other out of areas, building paths to new areas. At 2-player, it's definitely like the smarter player wins. There's no playing yourself off anybody. It's just don't do anything dumb. Right. And I did plenty of dumb things. You played this way back when.
Yeah, it's been a while.
And you didn't seem to love it.
Yeah, it's fine. It kind of maybe shows its age, in the art and stuff like that. But I mean, it's a fine. It was a fine game. I think there is a little bit of like take that, and there is like in battles. Is there not like a kind of like a wager you have to make? Like you don't really know if you're going to win the battle. Like if I move into an area, like
no, okay. It's just you go in and you take.
Yeah, okay.
It's just it costs a lot to kick somebody out of an area.
Right, maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
But yeah, no, it's just you just do a thing, then your opponent does a thing, and then just keep on going that way.
Well, another game that was on Scott's top 10, but that we didn't play with Scott, but that when I went to Mary and Dallas' house, they watched Scott's top 10 list, and they were like, hey, that game was on his list, and I don't think we've ever played that game. And I said, well, I think we have, and we did, but they completely forgot that we had ever played it. And that was Castles of Mad King Ludwig.
Okay, wow,
so
good.
They said, bring Castles of Mad King Ludwig out. So I gladly did. And we played another game, and really enjoyed it. I can see why it's on Scott's top 10.
100%. This is such a good game. Mm-hmm. Such a good game.
Yeah.
So I was still playing with Scott, just he and I, and we decided to bust out. He hadn't played Shifting Stones. And so played a little game of Shifting Stones. And so I like Shifting Stones. How many times can I say Shifting Stones in this conversation? But the deal with Shifting Stones is that you have these tiles. Tiles that represent stones. And they're different colors.
And what do you do with those stones?
You shift them.
Oh, okay.
Shift them around. It's a neat little game where the cards in your hand have goals. And you need to orchestrate the stones in such a way that you can create the patterns that are on the cards. But in order to do the moves that help you shift or flip the stones around, you have to discard cards from your hand, which are the scoring cards. So it's this nice little push and pull of, okay, what does it look like is easiest to accomplish? Like, to make the patterns look like these cards? And then which cards can I just get rid of to get towards that goal? Simple, lovely, low game. Recommend Shifting Stones to anybody who needs a filler in their life.
Cool. So one of the games that I've played with Mary and Dallas a number of times, I quite enjoy, a little deduction game. It's called The Search for Planet X.
Oh, yes.
But recently, Renegade Studios published like a sequel to it called The Search for Lost Species.
Okay.
And so you're in like Indonesia and you're trying to find like every game you're looking for like a different guy. We were looking for like some flying bat creature that was like nearly extinct, and there's different rules, like he can't be next to the snake, but he's next to at least one of the birds, and he's not on a mountain or whatever. And so you get all of these little clues, and you have to kind of try and figure out where ultimately that guy is. So I really enjoy these kind of games, just these sort of like deduction games. Mary hated this game.
Really?
She just like got so bad at this game. There is kind of an element in which you do kind of go like looking for things. So I might say I'm going 5 spaces and I'm looking for birds. And so you journey, it'll tell you how many birds you found along those 5 spaces. You don't necessarily know where they are, but I found 2 birds on these 5 spaces. Now, where the heck are they? So there is like a small element of luck. It's not a purely deductive game in that sometimes you're looking for the birds and it's like, the birds are always in like groups of 3, and you walk down 3 spaces and you find 3 birds and you're like, oh, sweet. Like, all right, I found them all, and so like there are things like that can be, if somebody kind of gets that knowledge ahead of time. I think this game is a little bit more maybe restrictive than the Search for Planet X, but I think I liked it more than Planet X. Maybe just the theme, the art's a little bit. Planet X, you're just looking at a night sky, so it's just black. Yes. Whereas this is like a beautiful island with water and stuff like that. But yeah, so I enjoyed it, but Mary certainly did not.
Perfect. Okay, so then Scott and I, we were kind of closing out our evening, Guess what? I got back to the table. Beer and bread.
Oh, yep. That makes sense.
And guess who handed me my first loss at beer and bread?
It wasn't me.
It was Scott, but I was so close. It was like a point. It's like 1 point. Anyway, so I love beer and bread. I'm going to keep on just... There's people I know out there, probably people, Ryan and Sarah, they don't like beer and bread. I can get the criticism that it's just sort of a vanilla Euro from 10 years ago. Yes, it is. But it's a good one.
That's right.
That's a good one. So again, the concept of beer and bread is that you're making beer and you're making bread and you're going to get coins at the end of the game for the bread that you make and the beer that you make, but you're only going to score whichever of the two got you the least amount of coins. Mm-hmm. So you're really trying to keep your game even Steven the whole way through, where you make a bread and then you go and you make a beer. You go make a beer. And you might get a little bit ahead on one than the other depending on how the cards are. What makes beer and bread interesting is just the way that you're drafting cards throughout the game. So every second round, you're going to pick a card and then hand the rest of your cards to your opponent. And you're going to do that throughout the round. Then alternating rounds, you get to just keep all the cards in your hand for that round. But it's a round that has less resources to go around. So it's more generous in letting you keep the cards and work towards a plan. I think I prefer that round because you can kind of plan ahead. It's a little harder to execute because the resources are a little tighter. Those dimensions of the game make this a really unique experience for me. It's a great two-player experience. This might be my favorite two-player only game. I think it might be my favorite two-player only game. But I'll talk about another one that reaches those heights near the end of this list.
Interesting. Well, I went out and picked out a little game that I've had my eyes on for a while, but never really got around to buying. And it's a very, very simple game. This is number 9. Or number 9. It doesn't have any.
Were you having a stroke?
Because it's spelled NMB. It has no vowels.
Oh,
so it's NMBR 9.
Okay.
It's like number 9.
That's your uncle who's had a couple too many.
That's right. But in this game, you're just literally stacking numbers on top of each other. Okay. So you get
9 numbers?
A 9, and there's 0 to 9. So in fact, there's 10 numbers.
Okay.
And you just stack them, and there's 2 of each. And when you get to 20 numbers, you score. And the way you score is a 9's worth 9 points, but it's multiplied by the level it's on. And then the base level is worth 0 points. So if it's on the 3rd level, it's worth times 2 points. So you get 18 points for that 9. But if you get a 0 on the 3rd level, it's still worth nothing because 2 times 0 is still 0.
Yeah.
But it has this kind of interesting thing where the 9s are really quite big tiles, and so they're nice to serve as foundations. They work really well when they're on the bottom of your board, and so do the 8s and 7s. Whereas the 1s and 2s and 0s are smaller, and so they can kind of more easily fit on the top, but they're worth bubkus. Okay. And the 0 even has this annoying thing that's got this big hole in the middle of it because it's a 0. And so when you cover a tile, when you build on top, you can't cover over any holes or anything. It has to fit completely, onto spaces that exist. And so now you put the 0 on, now you have this little hole that you have to build around.
I am having so much trouble visualizing this.
You're just stacking numbers, but you want to get the higher numbers on a higher level, but it's beneficial to building your pyramid if your higher numbers on your lower levels. So there's just kind of this interesting tension of... It's a very, very simple game. You literally just flip over a card and everyone takes an 8 and puts it somewhere into their little stack. And you just keep playing until you flip over all the cards and then you score some points.
Okay.
But it's fun.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Okay, so for my birthday, Sarah got me a few board games, and one of those games was a game that she thought, Danny can play this with the kids. I was starting to play with the boys, kind of like a D&D-ish game where I took the Terra Mystica board and then I took pieces from other boards to kind of create a little adventure for them. And so then Sarah was seeing the boys were really enjoying that. And so she was like, oh, well, I found this game. And so it was Andor, the family fantasy game. So this is essentially Legends of Andor Jr. And I had never played Legends of Andor, and so this was my introduction to the Andor game system. And what an introduction! This game is fantastic, and Owen and Ethan were both able to just play side by side with Sarah and I, contribute really well. And so this is a cooperative game where a wolf has lost her 3 cubs in the mines.
Oh, dear.
And we have to go and we have to find them. But Mark, the bridge guard, he's not going to let us across the bridge to the mine until we complete some tasks for him. So we got to complete some tasks.
Curse you, Mark, the bridge guard!
Yeah. And so again, each game, the game kind of tells you, use these tasks for this game. And then when you do that, then the next scenario will give you these tasks. And all fairly relatively simple tasks. So basically you have these monsters on different spaces of the board. And then you have these items that you're going around collecting, typically in some way, shape, or form. And there's a dragon that's moving towards Rietberg. Okay, so basically you have to complete your tasks, find the 3 wolf cubs before the dragon reaches Rietberg. You can push the dragon back by defeating the monsters that are on different spaces. Very simple battle mechanism where you roll dice, try and get swords. On the space the monster is, it shows how many sword icons it needs to be defeated. If you don't reach the number of icons that's required in one turn, you can then spend a sun disk, which is like your daytime hours, to stay there and roll again and add more dice. Very simple mechanisms for the kids that work really well. And I was engaged the whole time. The end of the game gets boring for a grown-up because basically you're just plodding yourself through the mine, rolling for torches. If you get torches, you look. You get a dragon, the dragon moves. You roll again, you move again. Like it's just sort of like you're just kind of playing it out and you're either going to win or you're going to lose, depending on how you roll the dragon die and things like this. But the completing the tasks portion is quite engaging and quite fun. Like, you gotta search through the fog to find Rika, the herb witch. Oh. you gotta pay her some coins. She'll give you a potion to help the cubs when you get to them. You know, fun little things like this. The boys loved it. So when I was in Halifax, I went searching for the actual Andor game. Found it for $20 with an expansion. So I brought that home. And so I'm gonna start getting into Legends of Andor because I always stayed away from, cooperative quite often, but this, if the real game is anything like a kid's game, fun time.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, we, in our kind of area, we got kind of a change up of priests, so a lot of priests sort of moved around. And so I lost one of my good kind of board gaming friends, Father Dan.
Broke your heart. He's still alive.
City, but he moved away kind of. But we got a new guy that came in. But So I've been training Father Santos, kind of taught him a few kind of beginner
training him in the ways of board games.
Just like a few like little
not how to be a priest,
beginning little beginning board games. But we also play with Father Ranesh, a new priest to the area, and so it's like, well, what can we play? And I pulled out For Sale.
Oh, excellent!
And we played 3 games of this back to back. And they loved it.
Yes,
they just thought this was like, they were like, oh, this is lovely. This is just like the first game of, I think the first game of For Sale is always a little tricky. Like just kind of the grasping of it of like, what am I trying to do? How much should I spend on this building? Right? You don't know until you kind of go through the second half of the game. Oh, that's how this is going to work. I see. Oh, okay. And so you kind of, originally you don't know. Like, oh, is this a building I should spend $8,000 on, right? But once we played it, they were like, let's play it again. And we played it again. They're like, let's play it again. I was like, sweet. So cool. Had a great time with For Sale.
Awesome. Okay, so another game that Sarah got me for my birthday that I played on the evening of my birthday with Colin Line and Sarah Pettipa. Orleo. Have you played Orleo?
I have.
Oh, yeah. So anyway, we played Orleo. And you know what? A couple weird things. Great game. Let's just put that out there.
Yeah.
Great game. Weird. I'll tell you what's weird about it. So the core mechanism is this bag building where you have these tokens, and in order to accomplish actions, you need to place these little particular tokens like a farmer, boatman, military man, whatever, and like a particular action might require 3 discs on it, and then you place your guys there, and then you can do that action. Okay. Fairly straightforward. A lot of the actions will get you more discs to put in your bag. And then there's an action that you send discs to another location where they'll gain you coins and whatever, but they come out of your bag. So you can thin your bag out. So very much like a deck builder, but with tokens. But feels different. Like it feels like a board game. It doesn't feel like a card game. Kind of cool. And lots of fun. All the beige Euro stuff going on. So I really enjoyed that. But the thing that really boggled my mind was that You're getting coins a lot of the time, and you're getting resources and goods. But there's no secondary market here. It's basically just like everything you gain in the game is going to earn you victory points at the end of the game. Coins that you gain are going to earn you 1 victory point. Each type of good is going to earn you a certain number of victory points at the end of the game. So there's very little. There's a few things like taxes and events that come up that you will have to pay some money. By and large, you're just collecting different stuff, and there's not a lot of you're going to gain this resource and spend this resource for victory points. You just collect the resource at the end of the game, it's worth victory points. You collect the coins, they're worth victory points at the end of the game. So it was weird to me to like play this game, and at first I was like looking through the rule book, like, what's the money for? Like, what? Right. Okay, there's taxes, but like what? Like what? I have like a bunch of money, and then I read a BGG thread that was just like, just picture money as points. Picture everything as points.
Right.
You're just there's no secondary market. You're just doing that. So that was strange to me. It felt like my impression of the game was that it was excellent and I was having lots of fun. But every Euro game I've played has had this dimension where the things you're collecting you now have to turn into points somehow. Right, yeah. And this game doesn't have that. That was just strange. But it worked. It worked, but it was just strange.
Cool. Yeah. No, Orleo's is fun. I went over to a 6-year-old's birthday party. He invited me over to his house. And they have lots of kids, and they like board games. And so I went over to their house, and one of the kids said, "Father, would you come play Carcassonne with us?" And I said, "Sure, that sounds lovely." It wasn't. And, kids get distracted a lot. And, some of them are just, it's like their birthday party. They're like, there's kids wandering off, not coming back for like 10 minutes. There's other kids that just like, have given up.
Yes, of course.
We made it through, but not with all the players that started. So we were kind of adding in players, taking them away. It was a travesty of a game, but Carcassonne still is great. And I've played a game with them that's gone successfully. This was just not it.
That's funny. So I was in McNally Robinson. My favorite bookstore. I'd say, hazard to say, my favorite store in Saskatoon. I just like, it has a big tree in the center of it. I don't know. It just does. It's fun. This spiral staircase that goes around the big tree. Any store like that's got to be good. But every now and then they have a discount section for their board games. And so I found Hadara and Nova Luna, which is the game we're talking about here, for half price. So Nova Luna, this is an Uwe Rosenberg game, has a sort of patchwork style to it. But he adapted this game from another designer's design called Habitats. Never played Habitats, so I don't really know how close this plays to it. But essentially, around this ring, there's all these tiles. And these tiles are different colors. And there's circles on these tiles. And in the circles, they show other circles of colors that represent the tiles. So like a blue or a light blue or a red or a yellow or whatever. And so basically it's saying, hey, if you get these different colors around this tile, you can put one of your discs on this circle. Okay. So then on your turn, you can pick one of the 3 tiles that are immediately ahead of your pawn. And then the next player is always the player whose pawn is the highest back on the farthest back on the ring. Okay. So then the tile itself has a time cost, and that's how many spaces you're going to move your pawn around the ring to determine kind of the player order. And so then you're just doing that, and you're basically racing to get rid of your tokens. So you're not earning points per se, but you're just earning the opportunity to add your tokens. And so I've only played this once. I really enjoyed the play, but I did not synergize. This is a game where you kind of have to look ahead at the different tiles that are available and say, hey, what do I already have fulfilled that if I just add that tile to my network, I just fulfill it? So you just got to be thinking that way. And I wasn't quite thinking that way. I was thinking a little bit more unilaterally of just like, if I get this tile, then I'll need a blue tile and a red tile. And so I went and got those. And then like, if I get this tile, I need some yellow tiles. Instead of looking at what I had and saying, oh, that tile fulfills that. I was working backwards. Didn't pay off. But great game, simple game, fun game. Nova Luna.
Cool. I do want to play this one.
Yeah.
So, we played the Castleman King Ludwig earlier, and I thought, what's another Castles game that we could play? So the next week I brought out Castles of Burgundy.
Who thinks like that? We played a game that had castles in the title, so let's play again. This game's nothing like that previous game.
No, yeah, nothing like it. Anyways, me and Mary and Dallas had a great time. They never played Castles of Burgundy. Wow. I was like, this is a game that, everyone should play at some point in their lives. And it's a great game. The mechanics of it are great. There's just one little problem, and that's just... I have the 10th anniversary edition, which I think improved the art.
Yes.
But not vastly by any stretch of the imagination.
Now there's a beautiful edition from Awakened Realms.
And that might be the game changer. Yeah. Because the buildings and even the little tiles, they're very small. And when you pick a building, you first have to figure out what the hell building did I actually just pick up. Because from when they're all on the table, sometimes they're almost indistinguishable from each other. Right. Until you put them under a microscope and you're like, oh no, that has a little steeple, that's a chapel. Oh, okay, got it. Okay, sweet. Okay, well, what does a chapel do? Oh yeah, got it. Even the animals, I guess there's 4 different kinds of animals, but the cows are sort of brown and the goats are sort of black, but man, from far away, man, you're is that a goat or a cow? I can't tell. So it's a great game. Oh, yes. I love the way this game plays. It's filled with lots of good decisions. Even I told them right away, I was I usually score somewhere around 200 points. If 200 points is a good game, maybe 170 to 200. That's just a kind of a ballpark of what to expect when you play this game. And even coming up to the last turn, Dallas just passed 100 points, and he's man, I'm not getting there. This, I don't know how you're gonna get 200 points. And I was just wait and see, man. It starts to, once you start getting points, they start kind of coming hot and heavy. Sure enough, everyone ended up I think Mary ended up winning. She had 204 points or something that, and so I was yep, see, works.
Point salad, baby.
That's right. But it is one of Stefan Feld's great designs for sure.
Yes. All right, so we took a trip to Halifax. Didn't play a whole lot. Played a lot of Andor, the family game in Halifax, but didn't really play much else until my buddy Mike came over and we played a game of Role Player. I played Role Player with Mike, my one and only time playing Role Player, years ago.
Okay.
And this is when I did not understand anything about anything, and I just couldn't put things together. This time around, Role Player is a great game. Role Player is a great game. So it's a simple concept where you're building your character for a D&D game, but basically you're just taking dice and you're putting them in different rows, and you're essentially trying to add up the sums on your dice to reach a certain number in order to score the points that row will give you if you get that sum. That's the basic thing you're doing, and then on top of that, there's cards and things. They'll give you endgame scoring if you do this with your dice or if you do that with your dice. But basically on your turn, you're drafting a die, you're adding it, you get a little special bonus for the particular row that you put that dice in, which might allow you to swap dice on your board or maybe rotate a dice over from a 1 to a 6 or whatever. And so you're doing that. And then you have money that you can then buy cards with. And so then in initiative order, so based on what dice you drafted, then you'll be able to buy a card. And so then you buy the card, and they might give you ongoing ability, endgame scoring, set collection, this kind of thing. What I love about the game is the simple core task that you're challenged to do. Just kind of get a bunch of high numbered dice in your quadrant. And then maybe if you can, get the right colors in the right spaces, mixed with, why don't you try this endgame scoring tactic? Why don't you add this kind of 3 or 4 ongoing abilities here? See how that helps you out. Fun.
No, lovely game. The next game I played, so I played this both with Father Santosh and Father Ranesh and with Mary and Dallas. So I played it 2 times this month, but this is a game called Rome, which is a game, an abstract strategy game in Ryan Laukait's world.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a little box game that has all of Ryan Laukait's artwork. It's in it tells a story. It kind of, there's this mental illness where people just literally wander away from the city and they just end up making statues in the forest, and so you have to go and find them. But the way you find them is by placing discs on cards and forming different patterns. And it's a bit like Century Spice Road in that you start off with very basic patterns, you can place in an L or you can place 2 in a line together or whatever. But then once you kind of find a villager, you now get that villager, and so he gives you another pattern now that you can use.
Okay.
And the game ends when you get to like 10 villagers. So it's kind of like Sentry, where you're just like you have like these basic starting cards, but you're using them to like buy better cards.
Yeah.
Kind of like into your hand. But then once you use a card, you have to use all of your cards before you can kind of like rest and like refresh all of them, and so on. It's just an abstract strategy game. Like he tries to tell a story with it. It's a really weird story.
Yeah.
But if you like those... I shouldn't say, if you like that game, if you like any of his other games, Sleeping Gods, Above and Below, Near and Far, I cannot guarantee you're going to like Rome.
Right,
because it plays nothing like them. If you don't like those games, maybe still give Rome a try.
Yeah, that's right.
It's just an abstract strategy game.
Yeah.
You might like it.
Who knows?
That's right.
When in Rome.
That's right.
I know it's spelled R-O-A-M.
Yeah.
Last game I played in the month of August was... Mike was about to go home and I said, hey... good time for like a 20-minute trick-taking game? He loves trick-taking. So I'm going to stay a little bit longer to play Jekyll versus Hyde. Okay, so this is the other contender for like one of my favorite, like the favorite two-player only game. But Jekyll versus Hyde is standard trick-taking with a few substantial twists that make for a fun little experience. So there's 3 suits, and basically whenever you play a particular suit or color... first color that's played becomes kind of the lowest, the least powerful color. And then the next color that's played is going to become more powerful than that. And then the other color will be the trump sort of thing. So that's kind of your trump sequence now. But then there's potion cards. And so when you play a potion card and a color is played against a potion card, a special ability comes in. And one of those is that you kind of reset the trump sequence, if you will. Basically what you're trying to do is not necessarily win all the tricks. Depending on your character, whether you're Dr. Jekyll or whether you're Mr. Hyde, you have a different goal. And so if you're Dr. Jekyll, you want to keep things even keel. You want to just stay, you don't want to get too wild. You just want to keep it all simpatico. And so what you want is you want your opponent to have the same number of tricks as you do. This is essentially how you're trying to play. So you're trying to lose some, win some, get that middle. Mr. Hyde, on the other hand, he doesn't care if he wins them all. He doesn't care if he loses them all. He just wants things to be off kilter. He just wants the disparity between the players to be huge. And then at the end of each round, you add up the difference between the number of tricks your opponent has and you have, and then you add that. You move upon that number of spaces towards Mr. Hyde's side. So if Mr. Hyde can get the pawn all the way to the other side of the board, within 3 rounds, he wins. Dr. Jekyll wins if that doesn't happen within 3 rounds. Oh man, I just love this game. It's great. Still not great at it, but yeah, love it all the same.
Cool. Well, the last game that I played for this month, yes, I went over to Mary and Dallas's house and they said, there's this game, but you're not allowed to play it. I said, why not? They said, because we wanted you to talk about it 2 different months. I said, well, that's not going to stop me. I can still play it next month if it's good. And so we played Next Station London.
No! I got to talk about it first.
That's right. And it is great. I do love this game.
Yeah, it's good.
It's just I like roll and writes. I like just like having my own little board. I like the different colored pencils, just drawing lines. Like it's I don't know. It's simple, but yet there's still a hefty amount of like little planning involved. But oh man, just the theme is fun. The actions are fun. All around fun time playing this game.
Yeah, for sure. Great stuff. All right, party people. So there you have it. Those are all of the board games that we played in the month of August. Let us know in the comments below what games you liked. And if you liked things that we were talking about or interested in, comment on that too. But before we go, we got to tell you what the best board game we played in the month of August was. Okay, so for myself this month, my pick is a little bit unorthodox. But I'm picking Andor, the family game, as my best of the month.
Nice.
And because not because it's the best game I played this month necessarily, but because it was the first time where I experienced kind of board game harmony with my family. All of us were able to play, and all of us were able to have a really good time. Not saying that there weren't some issues. There was a period of time where we weren't playing Andor because Owen wanted to be green and Ethan wanted to be green. So we had to get over that. But by and large, when we were playing this game, everyone was able to engage and have fun. We were able to cheer for each other as we rolled the right dice values, and I had a lot of fun for it being a kids game. So Andor the Family Game is my best board game level players.
Cool. My best of the month. It's close for me. I would say it's either Akrotiri or Next Station London.
Okay.
I think both of those really just hit really high notes. Just both games. Akrotiri is definitely more the thinkier game. Next Station Legends is maybe a little bit more casual, but oh man, just love those games this month.
Oh, awesome. All right, party people. So if you like this video, please press the like button, share the video, subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. Until next time, party people.
Have the best day.
Oh boy.
I'm better than you, baby.